Hello, love. I am so excited to share with you that the doors are now open to apply for my 6-month coaching program, the Business Alchemy Circle, for women entrepreneurs who are ready to grow their businesses to create consistent 6 to 8K months. This program is going to be a perfect fit for you if you've been in business for 1 to 3 years and you are really ready to receive the support, the sisterhood, the strategy, the systems, all of the things from a soulful lens to grow your business in a way that feels in alignment with your purpose, your mission, your passion, and your aliveness. So come on over to emilycastle.com. There you can find the application as well as more information about the Business Alchemy Circle program. We begin the first week of March, and I can't wait to welcome you in. We still have a few spots left, so head on over to my website, emilycastle.com, and apply now so we can get a call on the schedule and make sure it's the right fit for you. I can't wait to talk with you, and I can't wait to share more details about this amazing experience for you, and I can't wait to help you grow your business and get some things moving and grooving. Now on to today's episode. Welcome to Sexy Soulful Success, the podcast for women leaders who are ready to transition from exhausted hustle to enlivened flow in their businesses and beyond. I'm your host, Emily Castle, leadership and business coach for ambitious, high-achieving women entrepreneurs. We will be hearing real behind-the-scenes stories, inspiring words of wisdom, and actionable strategies from women who are creating their empires with sexy confidence, soulful alignment, and an abundant mindset for success. You'll also hear shorter solo episodes from me to help you launch, grow, and scale your business by working smarter, not harder. Plus, you'll have the opportunity to listen in as I coach real women leaders from our community about challenges and burning questions in their businesses. My mission is to help you walk away feeling more confident in your own journey, free to embrace and express your innate feminine wisdom in all you do, ready to deliver your unique contribution to the world, and inspired to take the necessary action to grow your impact and income through your business. Let's dive into today's episode. Okay, guys, today I'm so excited to have Paige Velasquez here with me to discuss all the work that she's doing with Zilker Media, her company. She's the CEO of Zilker Media, one of the fastest growing agencies in Texas. And as a leader in digital marketing, she maximizes a brand's online presence with innovative strategies. She's led digital marketing campaigns and strategies for some of the world's most recognized authorities, including the New York Times bestseller and Fortune magazine senior editor-at-large Jeff Colvin, the New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestseller, and Hall of Fame speaker Sally Hogshead. Ooh, I know her. How to Fascinate. You guys probably, if you are into personal development, which you probably are, if you are listening to this podcast, you might have heard of her. So Paige has been a featured speaker on digital marketing strategy and has led workshops at national venues such as Harvard Medical School, Austin's own Alamo Drafthouse, Zilker Park, and the Hilton Hotel. She has also counseled leading international brands such as Russell Stover and A2 Milk. Her unique approach to brand strategy and digital marketing has been featured in Business News Daily, Thrive Global, Authority Magazine, CEO Nation, and Business.com, and I'm sure many, many more to come. Welcome to the show, love. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Emily. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, you're welcome. We were just chatting before we started recording about how you're in Austin, Texas, and you're a true Texan, which is very exciting. I feel like there are a lot of people that I know who recently have moved to Austin who are sort of like implants to Texas. So it's cool to meet someone who is like a true Texan.
Yes, I definitely have that Texas pride, and then a lot of our team members are actually true Austinites.
Oh, wow.
The majority of our team, which is very rare to find if you're in the Austin community.
That's so awesome. So what had you moved to Austin? Let's just share with everybody sort of how you got there and then how you started your company.
Sure. So I moved to Austin in 2011 to go to college at the University of Texas. Go Longhorns, and that's really one of I had always had a passion to go to UT, and my uncle went to UT. So it was kind of like I didn't have a choice because I was doing the shape of the Longhorn with my hands in the crib when I was a day old. There was always a dream to go to the University of Texas. And then after I graduated, I just couldn't leave because I loved Austin so much. There's such a unique thing about this community where you're in the middle of a big city, but you also feel like it has this small town feel of communities. And that's what I love so much about this, and what so many people that are from Austin and live in Austin talk about. You can go down the street and be at the lake. You can go 10 minutes and be in the hill country, or you can be right in the middle of downtown in the busyness of it all. And that's what I really love. So after I graduated, I joined a firm called Shelton Interactive, and the founder of that agency was also the founder of Zilker Media. So I didn't initially start the agency. I came in after our company was acquired in 2016, that original one, Shelton Interactive. I actually decided to go do something different for a year before Zilker Media was created, and it was a lot of fun. I went into politics for a year, which is completely something different. I was the digital director for a statewide campaign, and I learned so much during that year because it was such a big transition for me, such a different industry that I had never done marketing in. So that was a very exciting year in my life, and it was a very tough year in my life because I knew this isn't where I wanted to be long term. So the founder of Shelton Interactive, Rusty Shelton, we met one day kind of in the middle of that political campaign, and he said, I'm thinking about starting a new agency called Zilker Media. We're bringing some of the founding team members from Shelton Interactive to help start this new agency, and would you want to be part of it? And, we talked about the vision and the culture of the agency, and it was just something that felt so right and something that really excited me to be part of. And so I joined on in early 2017 with fellow team members that had been at that previous agency as well, and opened up the digital marketing department there. And then summer of 2018, Rusty and I sat down and had a conversation about me eventually transitioning into a CEO role, which was something that I had not thought would be a reality at all. And it was just this really big opportunity to lead our team into this next chapter and be part of a team and have that shared vision that I was so excited about. And so in July 1st of 2019, I transitioned into the role of CEO, and it's been such an exciting journey. I have learned so much in a short period of time on that journey, but what excites me the most is just moving forward towards that shared vision with our incredibly talented team that I now have the privilege to lead and be part of.
That is so interesting. So I feel like for you, you might be able to speak to this a lot, because with my clients who are running their own businesses as well, it's almost like there's a very big internal shift between acting as an employee and showing up as an employee or a team member or whatever we want to call that, and then showing up with like a CEO mindset and a CEO approach to leading a business. So what for you have you noticed or learned is different in that?
Sure. That has been an incredibly hard transition because for so long I have been an employee or a manager, and, a manager's job is to do, a CEO's job is to think. And that's something that I was told very early on in my transition when I was just meeting with other executives in town, trying to learn as much as I could from them. And that's something that has stuck with me. And anytime I feel like I'm getting kind of pulled back into the doing aspect too much, I try to take a step back and say, okay, let me think about this. Let me look at the vision and the strategy that we need to get there moving forward. And so that process hasn't been easy. And that's something that I've had to have a lot of accountability on myself. My two partners have a lot of accountability with me on that, just ensuring that, I'm not getting caught in the day-to-day and that I'm able to really think strategically. But I will say that it's been incredibly hard to transition.
Yeah, it is such a different mindset, right? And I think also sometimes if people who are listening are leading their own businesses and they're finding themselves almost in the, I know for me, this is true. It's like, sometimes I have to be a manager. Sometimes I have to be a CEO. Sometimes I need to act as an employee. Sometimes I need to be more of like a consultant or a freelancer for myself. And when those things can't be hired out, or when you don't have yet a team of people who are fulfilling all of those roles, especially at the beginning of a business, it's like you're responsible for being all of that. So then how do you prioritize the time and the energy and the space to address each of those challenges? And I find that that's where women a lot of times get tripped up, because they're like, okay, I know how to be a really good employee, or I know how to be like a taskmaster, or I know how to make sure that like all these projects are planned and ready to go, or I know how to think of the big picture stuff, but then to synthesize all of that together can be really challenging. And even just internally to like switch gears, such a challenge. And I think that's why I'm a big believer in having support around that for women who are like, what? And you just mentioned, talking to a lot of other people who are, as you were transitioning or even before into the like C-level, you were sort of meeting with other people and finding mentors and people who already were doing what you were getting ready to do.
Right. And that has been so incredibly helpful, just learning what challenges they have faced, what transitions and barriers that they've gone through, how they have weathered it all and how they lead their culture. That's something that's really important. But what I've learned too is, as women, I think sometimes we think we all have to do it ourselves. Mm-hmm. We have to do everything ourselves, and, taking on that big burden of responsibility. And the biggest thing is really utilizing your team and hiring people that are better than you at certain things. And that's okay. And you really don't want to be the smartest person in the room sitting in that seat. So as much as you can, even if it's, at a small level, which we are, a boutique agency, even hiring on, contractors or hiring on, part-time, that is even to that level has been, really important for our growth and our success and, in leadership as well.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Yes, I love that. So you had mentioned to me also that there's something in you that's like a fire around helping or just the idea that, as a younger female, being in a leadership position or even just creating an impact outside of a traditional leadership title is something that you're really passionate about and excited about. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes I think there's a perception that you can't be a good leader if you don't have several years of formal experience in leadership under your belt. And although I think that definitely helps you grow and develop a lot of leadership muscles with time, I don't think that it's necessarily experience that makes you a good leader. What I have found is your team and culture are extremely important. And it's important to surround yourself with others who enjoy also working towards the same vision, but who are also stronger in specific areas, that I might not be strong in. And I think young leaders are very powerful because a lot of times we're bringing a strong sense of curiosity to the organization. And I think that's really important for leadership, not only to coach others, but to learn from others, where they've had success and where they've had failure. And, understanding that we're not always going to know the answer, and that's okay. And I think that's sometimes hard for us to admit. And so I think that's very powerful when a young leader has a lot of curiosity. And with social media now, there's almost a sense of crowdsourcing that happens among young leaders. And I think that's very powerful, especially women. So many women are out there offering support and mentorship. And, social media makes it so easy for someone to reach out. I've done it several times to amazing, accomplished women here in Austin who have established wonderful businesses that I follow on social media. I've just sent them a message and said, hey, this is what I'm going through. I'm transitioning into this role. I would love to sit down and have coffee with you or a phone call and, learn from you about your experience. And I can tell you so many people have said yes. I haven't heard a no yet. And I think that's very powerful. And that's okay if I do. I think it's very powerful that so many people are using social media to crowdsource and, put out information to help and support other leaders and women.
I totally feel you on that. And I think it's so important that we as women take the initiative to reach out to other women. And I think there's so much that can hold us back from actually doing that, right? There's so much like fear or stories or conditioning that we hold around connecting with other women and doing it in a positive way and feeling like, oh, well, I'm just thinking some of the things that may come up for people when they entertain that idea is like, well, who am I to reach out to this person? Or, why would they want to have coffee with me? Or do I really need to do that? Is it necessary? Or can I just like read a book or something else? Like, can I get around it? But I think especially hearing each other's stories is so important, and being able to learn from each other's stories is so important. That's why I have the podcast.
Right. And it's exactly that.
It was like, I love like all these things that so many women are doing. I want to just chat with them. And then I was meeting for coffee, and then I was like, wait, I wish other women could hear this. So then it became a podcast. But it's so important that we connect and share our stories, because that's how women have been connecting and learning for centuries, is through storytelling. And we tend not to do that as much anymore, or at least we've gotten away from it. And I think we're coming back.
Right. And it's so powerful. And I also think, you don't have to currently have a leadership formal title to be able to do this. I think it's just as important to do it when you're interning in college. At one time I had 3 different internships just because I wanted to learn what I liked and what I didn't like, and learn from different people in different industries. Yep. I think that's so incredibly important to find that and do that, even if you don't have a specific title.
And I love that the world we live in now, like even when I was in college as well, sounds like we were sort of in school around the same time, but I did the same thing. I was like hungry for all the experiences to figure out, what do I actually want to do? I used my like marketing minor to intern for a health coach who had started a juice bar, because I thought maybe I wanted to get into coaching, and I was really into nutrition. So I created like a whole plan for her. And then I interned at a magazine publishing company where I ended up getting hired. And that was my first and only like real job before starting my business. I just started meeting with women. Oh, and then I had another internship turned job with a vegan food blog, because I just was curious, and I like reached out and I'd show up to things and talk to people. And I think that's how, like when we have our own established sort of like, this is what I'm doing, it can be harder to remember that that's really important too, even to keep doing that and to keep growing and to keep connecting and to keep asking questions and to keep being curious when we're already established in our sort of like zone of genius, or the area of expertise that we're claiming as a career.
Right. And I think, just because you start in a certain job right out of college doesn't mean that that might be the right thing from you 5 years from now or 10 years from now. I went out before Zilker Media and did something totally different because I wanted to try it. And I don't think there's any harm in doing that. And what you learn through those different experiences are setting you up for success, not only in business long term, but also in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What I love about the work that you do with Zilker Media is that you had mentioned to me that you describe the type of marketing that you do as people-driven marketing. And I would love for you to chat a little bit about that and explain what that means. The idea of marketing, I know for my clients, is really like a challenging, scary thing sometimes, because it requires that we're visible, that we put ourselves out there, that we're vulnerable in some way, that we, are, and a lot of times my clients are personal brands. And so it feels even a little bit more scary, because you're like, oh, if people don't like this, then it's almost like they don't like me. Or if they don't buy this, then it's almost like a rejection. And that's not necessarily true, but I think that's what it feels like, at least in the beginning of starting to put yourself out there as someone who has a personal brand or a business where you're really trying to help and serve people. And I know some of the clients that you've supported, their marketing efforts are sort of in that category, right? Like Sally Hogshead and some of the others. So can you speak to like, what does that mean? What is people-driven marketing? And then how can we actually use that in our personal brands?
Sure. We kind of honed in on the niche of people-driven marketing because of our history. So our first agency, Shelton Interactive, we focused on authors and book marketing, which is a lot of the campaigns I had worked on. A lot of those were authors. But what we have found is through the power of authors and book campaigns is that there is so much power for a personal brand beyond just a book launch. And we saw how a lot of this affected businesses, and we started working with these authors more long term. So when we started Zilker Media, we said, okay, what would it look like to really focus in on people, not only just the personal brand, so CEOs, executives, entrepreneurs, but also representing companies and having a different strategy and approach, not pouring all of our money and resources into the brand, but focusing on the people that make that brand unique and really setting them, kind of taking them out from behind the company and making them the Trojan horse of the company. And so that's something that we have seen work time and time again, especially in today's media landscape where, if you're just marketing your company constantly, people are expected to be marketed to by a company. So they're a little bit weary whenever they see a company out there doing marketing. But if there is a person out there that is a subject matter expert, a mission-driven thought leader talking on behalf of the company, it is so powerful, and people are able to accelerate the speed of trust with consumers with that approach rather than thinking that they're just going to be sold to constantly. And so with social media evolving and with people looking online, it is so important for leaders, executives, founders, entrepreneurs to think about their personal brands. Because what is happening is before you go to any meeting, or if you're doing speaking before a meeting planner even looks at you, what they're doing is they're Googling your name. And that page one result is your first impression. It's no longer happening over a call. It's no longer happening in that first in-person meeting. Your first impression is happening online. So if you haven't Googled yourself, I would encourage you to do so, especially do it in an incognito browser or a private browser to really understand what's coming up about yourself. And are you in control of what's coming up, or are you letting other people control that first impression for you?
I love that.
Yeah.
Such a great point, because it's true. Like you do Google everyone. It's not like, oh, well, like on the off chance that your first impression is actually your first impression and you have to be in the room with someone, which is kind of more rare now than not, right? That's such a great point. I love that. Okay, continue.
It's very rare now that people aren't Googling you first, and it surprises so many people. Whenever we do this exercise, we always start with an online brand audit, and the results that come up, they're just, I totally forgot I had that Instagram profile that I created, 5 years ago, and it's still on there and has pictures that maybe aren't putting me in the best light. Or there's an old video up there that doesn't look very good and is about 10 years old, and maybe that's not what I want my first impression to be. So really being intentional about what your social media presence looks like. If you have a personal brand website, we have found that also being really powerful. The goal there is to set that first impression and really credential you as a subject matter expert and ultimately be an on-ramp to your business. But you also want to look at earned media. So looking at, what's the most recent press coverage that you have for yourself out there? Do you need to go do more of that around your personal brand to really bring down the stuff that maybe is a little old or you don't want out there anymore?
That is such a great point. When you say a personal brand website, for people who already have a personal brand and business, is that covered, or do you mean something different?
So I mean going and buying your URL, so firstname, lastname.com, and then building, whether it's just a splash page, but building something on there that you own so that you can own that first impression, that number one Google spot when someone's searching for your name. And what a lot of people find is their name might be very common, So you might have to put a middle initial or a middle name in there, almost changing your name.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very important that you are building on something that is going to be sustainable. So for example, David Meerman Scott is a good example on this one. He added his middle name to his brand name because David Scott, if you look online, is a very common name. That's going to be very expensive to own online.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do have a common name, there are things you can do like adding a middle initial or adding your middle name to truly own the results when someone searches you.
That is so brilliant. I would have never, like, it makes so much sense, but I'm like, I would not have thought of that because for me, my name, I think there are like 2 other people out there who have my name that I know of who are also doing anything like professionally similar at all. And one of them is an author and one of them is like a writer. And I sometimes get emails from the writing pitches and stuff. And I'm like, is this for my podcast or are you like, I don't know. So it's funny, but yeah, that's such a great point. Okay. So Google yourself in an incognito browser, see what is coming up and just what to know. Look at most recent press coverage and earned media. And if that's not current or about you, put an effort in around that, right? Like pitch yourself to do things, all the ways that can happen, podcast interviews, etc.
Right.
And then make sure that if you have a common name, you add a middle initial, a middle name, something spicy so that people know it's you and not someone else.
Right. And you want that to be consistent across your website, every social media channel. A lot of people forget to change their LinkedIn. It's the one I see most often. So ensure that you catch every single channel. And then if you have an about page on your business website, make sure that your name on there reflects the brand name that you decide to go with.
Oh, I love this. Okay. So smart. Anything else that people should be keeping an eye out for in terms of their personal brand online?
Yeah, I will say a lot of people cringe whenever they hear the word personal branding. They feel like, they don't want to be overly promotional or they feel like it's gross to do that. And that's not really what we're going after. Mm-hmm. We're going after, simulating the same strategy online like you would walk into a networking event. Mm-hmm. You would go up and try to engage someone in a conversation, have a conversation and provide value. And that's what the most important strategy is online, is to do the exact same thing. You do not want to be overly promotional in your content. You want to provide value. You want to engage others. Relationship building is a really big opportunity, especially with social media online, because we don't have any geographical barriers. And so you can build relationships with people across the nation and across the world. And that's so powerful. So if you're going on Twitter and you're just tweeting about your new book launch constantly, it's almost like you're shouting into an empty room. Mm-hmm. The real value, and that's where people get frustrated, is they say, I've been blogging for 5 years and haven't seen a thing, or I've been on Twitter for years and haven't seen any results. And that's because you're not engaging others. Mm. It's so important that you do that, just like you're doing this with this podcast, Emily, that you find ways to engage others, to have valuable peer-to-peer interactions, because that's where you see success and that's where you see true value in your efforts.
Yeah, this is so interesting. So what are some of the ways that people can engage others? Because I think this is also now sort of like engagement, and we're looking at metrics and we're looking at likes and comments and that kind of stuff. But there are so many other ways probably that we're not thinking about it because we're only thinking about it in those terms. But engagement is so much more than like likes and comments, right?
Right. On Twitter, Twitter's actually one of my favorite relationship building platforms.
Yeah.
And that's one that a lot of people are going, hey, is Twitter even still relevant And it absolutely is. It's because there's so much power in what they call the username or the handle. That's that @ sign with your first name, last name after it. Whenever you go on Twitter, your goal should be every time you tweet to include someone's handle. What that does is send them a notification that you're talking directly to them straight to their phone. So I think it's a really great PR tool as well. So a lot of journalists are actually very active on Twitter. So if you're a subject matter expert and you're starting to see a journalist on Business Insider that is writing about, what you're passionate about and what you can speak on, look for them on Twitter and start engaging with their pieces. And that doesn't mean going to pitch yourself right off the bat to them. That means, promoting their recent article on your page and tagging them in the post and saying what you found most valuable about that. And you also might be adding a little perspective from your end as well. We've seen a lot of very powerful relationships built using that technique of always trying to start a conversation or have conversations with others. A really good way to do that on Twitter is by building a Twitter list that helps you filter your newsfeed to only those that you're interested in engaging with. So you could create a Twitter list for media and journalists. You can create a Twitter list that is specifically for other influencers in your field that you should connect with. You can also create a Twitter list for your favorite hobbies. For mine, one of that is music and Texas Longhorns. So I have these different lists, and depending on the day, that's when you should go in and say, okay, today I'm going to go engage and see if there's any opportunity for me to talk to any of my favorite journalists and start to build that relationship with them. And over time, they learn your subject matter expertise and might potentially say, hey, I would love to include you in one of my articles. Same for influencers. Really big relationships can be built online. And other ways you can do this as well, just kind of zoning away from Twitter, an interview series. So you're doing this with the podcast, but a lot of times there's also video interview series that you can do. Even a blog interview series, if your schedule is so incredibly hectic, send someone 5 questions that they can answer over email and feature them on your blog. People are more excited to speak with you if you're finding a way to highlight them and their story versus if you're just asking them to go have coffee or wanting something from them. So it's a more organic way to build those relationships, and it's very powerful because it provides valuable content to your audience, but also to theirs as well.
I love that. Okay. Oh, I'm thinking of all these things. I'm like, I didn't even know that you could do all of that on Twitter. And here I am like, oh, I haven't been on Twitter for years. And like, wow, what a missed opportunity. But I think for a lot of people, a lot of the advice out there is like, choose 1 or 2 platforms that you're really committed to being consistent on and just like stick to those and forget everything else. Just have like almost a landing page there. What's your advice about that? Because I think that's something that a lot of my clients and I hear often, at least in the coaching industry and potentially others as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think you should start with 1 to 2 platforms and really focus on building those, but make sure that the strategy is right for those platforms and the audience is right for those platforms. So I absolutely think Twitter should be one of those core platforms, especially if you're looking to garner more publicity or reach out to influencers. It's just so powerful. But then it might be Instagram if you have a younger demographic, or it might be Facebook if you have an older demographic, or it might be TikTok if you have a Gen Z demographic. But it is important to not approach everything at once, because if you're trying to do everything at once, you're not going to be good at anything. So really focus in on those 1 to 2 platforms that you feel really strongly about, really understand the demographic on those platforms, and make sure that you're approaching it with the right strategy, finding ways to engage others in what you're doing.
Awesome.
Again, if you're just going out there and being promotional or only talking about your subject matter expertise and opinions, people are not going to engage.
Oh, this is so good. Okay. Now, of course, we have to talk about email marketing because that's a core thing that a lot of people either are like, yes, email marketing is the thing, or email marketing is dead. And don't even bother, just use social media. sell everything off of social media, direct everybody toward your website, and then, that's where you're building. Why would you need this like middle ground holding container for people, right? But I know I'm playing devil's advocate here. I find email marketing very valuable and important, but I would love for you to share a little bit about why it's not dead and how people can use it maybe more effectively, or what are the things to watch out for to make sure you're doing or not doing.
Sure. Email marketing is still one of the most powerful tools because it is where you directly own the connection to your audience. You own that connection to every single person on your list. So this is unlike your social media channels, which are important, but you own the content that goes on Facebook, but Facebook owns the platform and they can change their algorithm at any time. So they determine who sees it and when they see it. But that's not the case with email marketing still. So it's one of the most powerful tools in your arsenal. Now, one key tactic to success with email marketing is consistency. And this is something that I know so many people struggle with, but whether you plan to do an email daily or weekly or monthly or quarterly, either of those is fine. Just make sure whatever you decide to do is consistent. And that's where I see a lot of people get really frustrated, is they're saying, I'm not seeing anything from any return from my email marketing. And it's most of the times because it's not consistent. But other techniques, really paying attention to that subject line. We get so many emails a day. We really want that subject line to be enticing, to be valuable. Think of, why are my readers going to read this email? But just as important now is that preview text. So that's the first two sentences that show up next to your subject line on someone's inbox. And this has shifted over the last several years due to Apple Mail and how we look at email on our phones. Gmail now shows you preview text as well as Outlook. So those first couple of sentences are really important to get that user on your email list to click open. Now, when designing your email, you really want to focus on mobile first, and that's incredibly important. A lot of marketers focus on making their emails extremely beautiful, which is great, but if you have very, very large pictures and very large file formats on your email, it doesn't come across and doesn't always load on mobile if someone's on cellular service or Wi-Fi service. So it's really important that you focus on, okay, what's going to load on a mobile phone, and that you use alternative text for all of your pictures. So that means if a picture doesn't load, there's a text there that says what the picture should have been. So a user is not lost in that email if for some reason it's not loading with their reception. Now, after you send an email campaign out, there's a few techniques that you can use for those who had not opened the email the first time. I'd recommend sending it out 48 hours again to those who did not open the first email campaign, and changing that subject line just slightly, because that might have meant that you didn't catch them on the right day or the right time. So always follow up with those that haven't opened your email the first time around. We've seen open rates and conversion rates really rise with this tactic. Now, I will preface all this with saying, talking about the email marketing is really important, but what's most important is talking about the lead magnet to get people onto your list. Mm-hmm. Typically, we see three types of lead magnets. The first one is that generic sign-up form that a lot of people have on their website that just says, sign up here for my newsletter. As you can imagine, that most of the time converts at a horrific rate. Now, the second type of lead magnet that we see is some pure exchange of value. So that's, sign up for my email list and get a free ebook or my free white paper. That converts at a better rate, but what we see with that is typically the more well-known people that already have a large following, that's where it converts at a high rate. For someone who is working on building their personal brand and building their credibility, a lot of times that is a harder conversion because the user doesn't know the full value there yet. Now, the last form, and this is the one that we see convert at a significantly high rate, is an interactive lead magnet. And we have found this very successful with what we call quiz marketing. So think about those BuzzFeed quizzes that you see online. A lot of people are now using this tactic, but what it does is give a pure exchange of immediate value for the person that is taking that quiz. So they're learning more about themselves versus about you. And so you want to focus on, this is an opportunity to get their email list because they have to put their email in order to take the quiz. But this is also an opportunity for you to learn more about the person that is coming into your email list. So you can learn and ask demographic questions, but you can also see where they score in results categories. We had a lot of success with this when we worked on the book, The Confidence Code. Mm-hmm. The authors, Katty Kay and Claire Shipman, had this idea to work with a research group to create a quiz called the Confidence Quiz. And so users took that 55-question quiz, answered a lot of demographical questions, but then at the end of it, they determined if they scored with high confidence, medium confidence, or low confidence in the workplace. And so that was very powerful for us to know because we knew exactly where each user was in their journey. And then from there, we could extend our interaction and nurture them based on their quiz results.
That's really awesome. I've seen that done. I'm on a few email lists that I've taken the quiz from, and I kind of love getting that customized like support well after I've taken a quiz. You know, It's like, hey, for your type, whatever it is, here's what you probably need to be focusing on, or like, here's another little like bite-sized piece of learning more about yourself, which I think is such a good point and something that I personally haven't yet done in my business. And I love this idea, and you're really like stoking my own creative juices around this because I'm like, okay, what could I do that would be a quiz that's valuable for people? Like, is it, a soulful business, like what kind of soulful business leader are you? Or what kind of, what mindset are you in your business right now? Or what, like, I'm just thinking about.
Right. And you can test a few different ideas too.
Yeah.
Especially with those people that are kind of in your inner circle or your current clients. Mm-hmm. And I think that's so powerful to really narrow it down to what is going to be the most valuable for the person taking this quiz.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love this. Okay. I'm getting super like jazzed and so many ideas coming through around this. I'm hoping everyone listening will be too. I think we've talked about, is there anything else that I haven't asked you yet? I know we're coming up at our time, but is there anything else that I've asked you that I haven't asked you that you would like to share or talk about besides like where people can find you? Because I'll ask you that.
I don't think so. I think we covered quite a bit.
We did. Thank you so much. This was super, super valuable. And I can't wait to share this conversation with everyone who will listen to it, because I know that there are so many things. There's so much noise out there, first of all, and the idea of marketing can be so overwhelming for people that this is just going to help clear up so much and help get them on a track of action. And I love that. So thank you so much for sharing and being so generous with your wisdom today.
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. So where can people find you if they want to learn more, if they have, a book or something, if they're looking for support around their digital marketing, where can they find you?
Sure. So we actually have the personal brand quiz on our website. So You can go and see kind of where you rank with your personal platform. If you go to www.zilkermedia.com, Zilker media.com, that's where you can take the quiz and see, in each portion of the media landscape, where are you currently ranking and how to improve your personal brand online. And then you can also find me on social media at Paige Velasquez on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and I would love to engage with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much again for being here. This was so fun.
Thank you so much, Emily.
Of course. And thank you for everyone listening. Tune in next week for another episode. I'll talk to you soon. Hi, love. Thanks so much for listening to the Sexy Soulful Success podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening to this episode so that you won't miss any upcoming interviews or helpful advice from our incredible sisterhood and community of women entrepreneurs and leaders from across the globe. I have a few free gifts to share with you over on my website, emilycastle.com. On the homepage, you'll find 3 different tools for free support to help you grow and lead your soulful business with more intention, ease, and flow. And while you're on my site, you can also check out my 3 signature programs for aspiring and established women entrepreneurs. The Soulful Business Academy is my 12-month group coaching experience for aspiring and new entrepreneurs to build a strong foundation for your soul-aligned business and fearlessly launch your calling. This experience is open for you to join at any time, so you can head on over to my website to get started as soon as today and get plugged into incredible resources, support, and a community of like-hearted women. Thanks again for listening, and I can't wait to hear your feedback and suggestions in the reviews. If you have a topic you'd like me to discuss, or a question you'd like me to answer in an upcoming episode, or a guest you'd love for me to interview, you can pop those suggestions in with your rating and review. I hope to see you next week for another episode of Sexy Soulful Success.